The editing of field recordings is something that often gets neglected. So in today's video, I will talk about the steps that will come after a recording session and that will help you to get the most out of the recordings that you already made. The first thing after a recording session is to import your files onto your computer to a hard drive or to a cloud storage, and if possible also create a backup of that. After I do that, I always format my SD card with the device that I recorded on. So this way the SD card is empty and ready for the next session. The second thing that I do is I put these recordings into a folder structure that makes sense to me. I usually sort mine by date and location. Inside that folder, I'll keep one subfolder with the raw files that I don't touch. Then I duplicate that folder, which I then later use for editing. This way, I always have the original recordings in full length and quality if I ever need them again. If you're doing several different recordings a day with different locations, different setups, different topics to record, I want to be able to keep them apart from each other and know what's inside of these recordings. To do that, many field recordists slate their recordings. At the beginning of each recording, they say out loud the details of the recording, and later on you can transfer this information into the file name. I suggest that you always use the same categories and order. For me, it is location, type, details, microphones, setup. So for example, burn, ambience, forest, far traffic, birds, calm, children playing, Micro G Pro, Mix Pre 6, AB stereo. There's also a widely used naming convention for sound designers and Foley artists. It's called the Universal Category System, and I will put you a link into the description if you want to check that out. For the final length, I always cut away the slating and any handling sound. Often when you start a recording, you can hear when you press record. So with trimming it down, I really just want to make sure that I can only hear the important parts. I will also add a fade in and fade out at the beginning and end of each recording, even if it's just a small one. And if there's any distracting sounds during the recording, like wind distortion for example, I will cut it out and put it back again together with crossfades. So this way I can really remove any distracting sounds that I don't want to have on the recording. I do these edits mostly in Ableton Live 12, but you can also use any other DAW and even free ones like Audacity that I can recommend. If you're using Ableton Live 12, make sure that you turn off the warp function, otherwise your recording gets warped to the tempo of your session. Sometimes I also EQ my recording slightly, especially in the lower frequency range where you can sometimes hear some rumble caused by wind, by handling or by the microphone itself. Now this really depends on the recording and I don't have one specific EQ setting for all of my recordings. Sometimes I will add a very light shelving filter to add a little bit more brightness to the sounds, and sometimes I will add a very narrow notching filter which cuts out any unwanted resonances or even electromagnetic interferences. But I always try to keep the EQ very subtle and I'll try to preserve the original sound as much as possible. Sometimes there are very loud peaks in a recording, and in some cases it makes sense to reduce the volume of those peaks a little bit. You could use a compressor for that, but I feel that for field recordings it often sounds much more natural if you do it manually. There are often just one or two peaks, and if you cut them manually and lower the volume, it will sound much more natural and you can also be much more surgical about it. Sometimes with a stereo setup, one side ends up louder than the other one due to gain differences on the recorder or just a tricky setup in the field. In those cases, it makes sense to check the stereo balance and adjust one side if needed. Of course, sometimes the uneven balance is intentional, but mostly it's just an accident from the recording setup. The next step should only be used with extreme caution on field recordings: denoising. A denoising plugin reduces constant noise in your recording. So for example, a fan, a distant highway, or even the self noise of your microphone. But removing noise almost always introduces artifacts to your recording, even if it's just a little bit. So it's always a balance between how much noise you're willing to accept versus how many of these artifacts you're willing to tolerate. For example, in iZotope's RX Spectral Denoiser, you can teach the plugin your noise profile and then reduce that from your recording. I always try to experiment with the reduction amount. And if I can hear the plugin working, so any artifacts or any watery sounds, I'll always dial it back. I would much rather keep some noise on my recording instead of making the editing obvious. Some recordings might be very quiet and some might be very loud. Normalization sets the loudest part of your recording to a defined maximum. I usually normalize to -1 dB full scale. Also for this step, I usually use iZotope RX, which lets you do batch processing, so you can actually normalize multiple files at once. But I don't normalize everything to -1 dB full scale. If you, for example, have a very quiet forest ambience and you move it up to -1 dB full scale, it will sound unnaturally loud compared to other recordings. In some cases, it makes actually more sense to use loudness normalization instead of peak normalization. So this way your average loudness, LUFS, will remain constant. This way quiet ambiences still sound quiet and loud explosions still sound loud. For quiet ambiences, I usually aim for around -23 to -20 dB LUFS. This keeps the sounds natural while also maintaining some consistency within my library. The important thing to understand here is that not all of your sounds have to be the same volume, but that you want to aim for some consistency with all of your sounds. Once you've done all those steps, your recordings are now polished and ready to use. So you can now start sampling some of these sounds or even layering these sounds together to create even richer soundscapes and ambiences. This is where the creative part starts. And if you want to learn more about how to use these recordings in your production process, check out this video right here where I turned some city noise into drums. And before you go, I write a free newsletter called Creative Monday. So every other week I'll send out 3 short creative nuggets that fascinated me and that might also spark ideas for you. So you can sign up now with the link in the description. It's completely free, and every second week you will receive a short email from me to start out your week. So I see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.